Welcome to Journey to Queendom, the sacred space where survival ends and sovereignty begins. I'm your host, Marci J. Duncan, and this is where we lay down the cape of overachievement, code switching, and self doubt, and we pick up the crown of softness, wholeness, and authenticity. In each episode, we're going to peel back the layers of that hustle culture, perfectionism, and we're going to look at the pain too. But we're going to rediscover joy, vulnerability, intimacy, and freedom. This is not just a podcast, it's a reclamation, reclaiming your authentic self. So, if you're ready to stop shrinking and start queening, you're in the right place. Let's begin the journey. Hey everyone, welcome to Journey to Queendom. I am Marci, and today I am opening up about a lot of things. I am opening up the proverbial door wide open. No more hiding, no more survival mode, no more compartmentalizing. I finally laid down my cape and I picked up my crown. So, this chat today is going to be about how I fought, how I hustled, how I survived, um, and how, I finally chose to live differently. So, I'm going to share with you um, how my identity was shaped by hustle culture and survival mode. And how it kept me empty and in a constant loop, almost like I was running on a hamster wheel. So we're going to talk about that. And if ever felt that way, if you've ever felt trapped or stuck in survival mode, and you are at that point or you're getting to that point where it's not the payoff that you thought, it's not what you thought it would be. If that's you, this chat here is for you. Okay, let's get into it. So, just go with me here. I'm new to podcasting, and so I have my notes here because I do want to keep myself on track. I am a rambler, so bear with me here. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing this part of my journey with me, this journey to Queendom, and I hope that you will join me. All right, so for today's episode, I'm going to talk about becoming. And I know we have a lot of conversation about becoming. I know that Michelle Obama released a book with that title, Becoming. And so today I just want to kind of talk to you about what that means. And also, I want to talk to you about the decision to open the door. Now, if you weren't with me in the last episode, I kind of talked about, I used a metaphor about our past and our trauma being these dark rooms that are closed off and locked. And the general public, even the people that we live with, don't oftentimes have access to those doors. They are bolted closed. And I talked about how you have to open those doors and see what is in the darkness before you can move forward into this new mindset. One of the things that my therapist asked me when we began our journey was, how do you know that you're not the descendant of a queen? And so that's the thing that kind of started this whole journey of me going and unlocking and opening and shedding light on those doors that have been closed for years, and finding out that those closed doors blocked me from seeing myself as that queen, from stepping into that queenness. So I want to talk about those doors. First of all, what it's going to take. It's going to take you confronting your fears. And yeah, that's scary. That is really scary. Um, I have a story about me confronting my fear. If you could just bear with me for a second. Um, when I, when I became pregnant with my second son, I started dealing with anxiety, really crippling anxiety. And I think I know where that came from. And it came from my husband and I. We were trying to have a baby, um, towards the beginning of our marriage. And the doctors pretty much said, it's impossible. You have endometriosis. You have so much scar tissue from all of your fibroids. It's not going to work. It's going to be nearly impossible for you to get pregnant on your own. So I'm going to recommend you to try IVF. So we tried IVF. Long story short, it didn't work for us. We miscarried. And it was devastating. It was devastating. And that had been the first time that I had been pregnant since my first son. And my first son was, in his 20s. So I was devastated, as you could imagine. And I dealt with that by pushing it in one of those doors, turning off the light, closing it, locking it up, never to deal with. I don't want to touch it. And from that point, I just had been praying and praying and praying and praying, God, I want to have a baby. I want a family with my husband. I want to fulfill my role as a woman. That's what I was praying at that time. And year after year went by, and no baby, no pregnancy. It would get to the point where every time I would come on my monthly, I would just be in the most foul mood ever. And it wasn't PMS, it was just like angry, right? And we talk about that anger from the first episode, and we're going to unpack that a little bit more too. But I was so angry, right? And then the anger turned into like pleading with God, please, Lord. And then that pleading became, okay, I'm tired. I'm tired. We are 6, 7 years down the line, and I'm tired. If it be your will, so be it. If not, I vow to you that I'm going to make peace with whatever that is, because I know that you are real, and I know that we have a relationship, and I don't want to forfeit my relationship with you over this. So I let it go. And as soon as I let it go, I got pregnant. I got pregnant after 7, maybe 7.5 years of trying. The moment, I decided in my body and my being to let go, that's when it happened. And I say that to say, because that is when I started having anxiety. So I was pregnant, and that I had miscarried before. And so I was really afraid that I would not have a full-term pregnancy. Of course, those thoughts came through my mind. Constantly, I'm thinking, this isn't going to go well. Something's going to happen. Something's going to be wrong with the baby, on and on and on and on. Meanwhile, I am going back and forth with my spiritual mind saying, God did not give me a spirit of fear. God does not play games. God does not play games with me. He wouldn't give something to me and take it away. I'm just going back and forth in my mind with my spiritual mind, trying to encourage my carnal mind to calm down and to trust God throughout this process. And the main thing I was trusting God for is like, okay, help me, Lord, because there's some small part of my heart that doesn't believe that you will do it for me. And I was honest with God, and I told him that. And I believe I heard him say that everything is going to be fine. And so I held on to that. I held on to that. And of course, times got harder. And that worry, that concern was there. I didn't know because I had released it. You know, I had given it to God and I said, okay, I know I'm safe. I'm going to trust you. But there was a part of me, a part of my body that was trying to protect me from heartbreak. And my body went into protection mode. And that's when the anxiety showed up. And it would manifest in a way where I would just be sitting or standing and it would just wash over me. And so much so that I felt like I had to sit down, like I couldn't catch my breath. And then it would be like, I don't have any breath. I can't breathe. I'm going to die, right? It would escalate to those kind of levels. You know, I started to sweat, broke out into a cold sweat, and it would just escalate. Now, I'm not really sure how long it lasted, but it definitely felt like 30 minutes. But I'm pretty sure maybe it was just a couple minutes or maybe even a couple seconds. I'm not sure. But that's what started to happen. And it didn't stop after my son was born. Evidently, there was still some fear on a follicular level, like inside of my body, that I had pushed over into those doors over there and closed it, that I wasn't really dealing with because this anxiety still was creeping up and creeping up. And instead of, I'm not going to be full term, something's going to happen to the baby. Now the baby is here. It went into, I have to keep him safe. What if he dies? What if this, what if that? And count in postpartum. If you know anything about postpartum, for some women, it is horrific. And so the anxiety kept going throughout my postpartum. And my postpartum lasted a while. Not flashback, but push forward to years later. And the anxiety is still present, but it's not as frequent. So I got a diagnosis from the doctor, and this diagnosis was pretty serious. And so it did freak me out a little bit. But a part of the journey of getting better was to take regular PET scans. And so I would have to take them every 6 months. So when I got the word from the doctor and I asked him, I said, is this like an MRI where, you kind of like go in this tunnel? He was like, it's easier than that. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And he said, here, I'll show you. So he looked up a video and kind of showed it to me. And just looking at the video sent me into an anxiety attack. But it wasn't as extreme. It was like on the inside of me, and it wasn't like he could tell. So I said to him, do you have any medication that I could take so that I can kind of calm down and, go through the procedure? He's like, you're going to be fine. Everything's going to be good. Don't worry about it. So I was like, okay. I show up to do this procedure, and just like I thought, I started to go into full-blown panic attack. And I was breathing heavy. I couldn't catch my breath. I was terrified, and I felt like I was going to die. And the nurse tech there, she was very patient, very kind, and she kind of helped me walk through it. And she said, we can go at your pace. Don't worry. I knew I was going to do it because I had to. I didn't have a choice. But I felt like it had to be on my terms because it was too much. It was too much for me to just lay down, go in. It just seemed impossible for me. So she worked with me. At first, I said, let me just sit here until I can get my breath together. And she helped me. She gave me some water. And then I said, okay, I'm going to lay down now, but please do not press any buttons to push me in that thing. Just let me lay here for a second. And she let me lay here. I got my body used to that. And then I told her, I'm ready. And if you can just stay here with me for as long as you can before you have to go, I would appreciate that. And she did that. And she talked me through the whole process. And she told me when she was going to press the button, and she pressed it. And I was panicking, but I knew I had to do it. So I just grit my teeth, and I forced my brain to sing a song, to think of other things until the wave passed. And I just kept thinking, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. I'm going to die. I'm going to get die. I got to sit up. I need to sit up. Like all of this was going through my mind. And I'm literally inside of my head fighting in my mind, like, no, 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 you can't stay. It's okay. It's going to be over soon. Sing a song. Think about your sons. I'm doing all of these mind games to help myself calm down. And eventually my heart rate went down, and I was able to complete the procedure. And I was like, I don't know how in the world that I'm going to be able to get through this every 6 months. So I took it to my therapist, and we started to do some work around this fear. And she tried this procedure called BDMR. I think that's what it's called, where you put these headphones on and you put these sensors on your fingers. And every time you hear a tone, you tap the finger on the side of the ear that you heard. So same hand, same tone in the ear. You just push it. And what it's supposed to do, I gathered, was to help you focus and tap in on a physical level, because we're engaging the brain, we're engaging the ears, and we're engaging the tactile response. So we have a lot of things that we're engaging at the same time. Anyway, we started going through this activity, and what we discovered was that it wasn't necessarily the machine that I was afraid of. It was the fact that I was laying on my back with my arms over my head, and I could not move, and I could not get up. And that was astounding to me. The correlation that my brain made to this set of circumstances. My brain said, she's in danger. Let's protect her. And it sent my nervous system overload. It just completely rushed to protect me, to say, Marci, get up, get out, run, right? That was the message that my brain was sending to my body because of a connection from that closet, that dark closet, the door that I shut and that I don't visit, that I didn't want anybody else to visit. That was where the key was. That key unlocked where that fear came from and originated. So then I was able to understand and send a new message to my brain that this machine is not that memory. It's not that traumatic experience. I am safe. I am safe. I am not in danger. And from that moment, that realization, that work that I did with my therapist, I was able to go through the PET scan with no problem. I was able to go through the PET scan with no problem. And still to this day. It used to be, friends, that when I thought about that machine, I would go into a panic attack. But that doesn't happen to me anymore because of the courage to visit those dark corners, to open up those doors that have been closed for years and years and years and deal with the fear, deal with the trauma. I had to go there. And of course, this journey, this part of the journey is not over, right? But it absolutely started with confronting the fear of the past. And we're going to keep referring to that as we move through these episodes, because that is a underlying theme that kind of goes throughout this journey that I have to keep revisiting. So this stage of fear, right, connected to these moments, then I was able to explore other doors that needed to be open that has me in survival mode. And what is survival mode? Survival mode is when you are going through as if you are in danger, that there is a threat, and you have this constant feeling that I have to put out fires. I have to be present. I have to do this. I can only depend on myself. I can't trust anybody else to take care of this. It has so many tentacles, survival mode does. It breeds mistrust. It breeds lack of communication. It also shuts down vulnerability and intimacy. It has so many dangerous tentacles that were in play in my life. I had to figure out all the ways in which I was tangled up in survival mode. I experienced a small measure of freedom with that PET scan. And that was the spark I needed to untangle survival mode from my life. I tasted that freedom and I wanted that freedom. I wanted it all the time. And that's when the second part of this journey began. And that is taking apart the superwoman, denouncing the superwoman, taking apart and peeling back the levels of survival mode, operating out of scarcity. That's where I needed to start, because that was the portion that was entangling me from seeing myself as the queen, as the soft, beautiful, feminine woman that I am, but that had been shoved away because I was surviving these traumatic events, doing what I needed to do to make it happen, to get by, bear down, deal with it, and get through. And that became a reoccurring theme in my life that did not only have repercussions in my relationships, but also in my body. In my body. And we'll talk more about that in our next episode. Listen, thank you so much for being here with me and listening to this podcast. I appreciate you, and I look forward to talking to you next. I just want to encourage you to put down your cape and pick up your crown. Let's do it together. See you next time. Thank you for walking this stretch of the journey with me. If something in today's episode stirred your spirit, share this episode with a sister. Leave a review or connect with me on social media. Remember, your softness is sacred. Your healing is your birthright. And your queendom, it's already within you. Until next time, keep rising and claim your inheritance. This podcast was brought to you by Artists at Play, nurturing the artist within.